Joining us. This should only take about 4 hours or so. Oh, well, we'll try to cut it back a little bit for you. Um, but welcome. My name's Roger Baker, and I have had the pleasure of working with the travel department now for over 20 years. And first of all, I'll just get this out of the way. I don't sound American, I know. It's not that confusing. Well, it is. Originally from Windsor in the UK, but I've been stateside now for just under 30 years. First of all, up in Boston, Massachusetts, and now I'm down here in the Southeast in the Charleston and Savannah area. So we're going to go through a few of our trips for this year and for next year to the US. And we've got some nice pictures, and I shall go and give you updates on what we're doing on these itineraries, and hopefully entice you back over the pond to come visit us here in the States. So obviously, it has been a long while since we have seen you. And we really are looking forward now as our friend Mr. COVID hopefully has gone away, but the States is open, and looking forward to welcoming people back. And so we hope to see you soon. So we're going to go through here 4 different trips, which we're featuring today. The first one is the East Coast of the United States via rail, via Amtrak. And then Route 66 from one side of the country to the other, and then highlights of California and the Golden West, and then finally the Deep South, where I'm actually located right now. You can see here a nice picture of one of our drivers here, which is good old Mr. Riley, and he's actually been on 6 of our Route 66 trips, so he knows it rather well. But anyway, we thought we'd introduce you to Riley because you'll probably see him on at least one of these trips. So the first one here is East Coast via rail on the big old American train system, which is known as Amtrak. And really, this is probably one of the best ways to discover the major cities on the East Coast, up in the Northeast. And also, of course, for you train lovers to go and get to enjoy that quintessential American experience on traveling on one of their huge, great big diesel Amtrak trains. So we're going to fly into Boston, Massachusetts, and we'll take the train down to New York, and then we'll take the train down to Philadelphia, and finally to Washington, D.C. Now, the great thing about this particular trip, it allows you time to discover these cities. We stay a certain amount of nights at each one of the cities. We are in a downtown hotel, so that way you can basically walk out of your hotel and you are in the heart of things. Excuse me. We will, of course, do a orientation tour with a local guide. So we start off here in Boston, and of course you'll fly into Logan Airport, and we transfer you to our downtown hotel. And then the next day in the morning, we'll do a full half-day city tour, an orientation tour of Boston. And then you've got the rest of that day, as well as the second day, to really go and discover the city, whether you want to go and see the T-ship, which is up on the top left, or go to Fenway Park to go and see the Boston Red Sox, or to go down to the Financial District or Quincy Market. Boston is a superb city, a great walking city. You've probably heard of the Freedom Trail, where you can go and walk in the footsteps of Paul Revere and all his happy gang. So we'll be staying 3 nights, first of all, here in Boston, Massachusetts. Then we're going to hop on the train, and we'll travel on the train. It's about 3.5 hours down to New York. And there is New York, the Big Apple. Now, what we do is we take a morning train, so that way we get into the city, and we do a city tour again there with a local guide, so you get a good orientation of downtown, Times Square, uptown, midtown. And again, we were there for 3 nights, so you've got plenty of time to go and discover Times Square there, or maybe take in a show at Broadway or Radio City Music Hall. jump on the elevator to go all the way to the top of the Empire State Building, take the Brooklyn Bridge. There's lots of different options, of course, you can do in the city, which never sleeps. And our tour director is going to be with you throughout. So the tour director can help you make reservations to go and see a show, as I mentioned. We'll give you directions, tell you all about his favorite New York pub or restaurant, but you'll have time there to discover the Big Apple. Next, we get back on the Amtrak train, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Amtrak train, or should I say Amtrak will talk a little bit more about their trains in a moment. But our next stop is the city of brotherly love, which of course is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And again, we will actually be spending one night in Philadelphia, but we'll get in the morning. It's about an hour and a half from New York. And again, we'll meet our guide and we'll go and see the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, the statue of Rocky Balboa. And then you'll have, again, free time to discover Philadelphia. Then we're going to head over to our nation's capital, which is Washington, D.C., where we'll be spending 2 nights. And again, you'll meet your local guide who will give you an in-depth tour of all of the government buildings, the memorials, and all of the wonderful architecture of downtown Washington, D.C. And again, you'll be staying right in downtown, so then you can either take the subway or you can walk and go out to one of the many Smithsonian Institutes, which are the free museums, or go and maybe, say hello to Mr. Biden there at the White House. But we'll end the trip for 2 nights in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to go and give you now just a quick little, what I call a party political broadcast on behalf of the Amtrak party. This will give you some great visuals of the history of Amtrak, and of course, the trains which you will be riding down the East Coast. So over to Amtrak.
There was an era when the other side of the country might as well have been the other side of the world. That's the way it stayed until brave and brilliant pioneers built railroads to open new opportunities and bring a sprawling nation closer together. Passenger trains remained central to America's story until the mid-20th century, when the reliable locomotive fell on hard times. While private railroads teetered on the brink of failure, a bold Congress, hearing widespread public support, stepped in to fund a unified passenger rail system to keep America on track: Amtrak. It wouldn't be easy, but visionary women and men worked tirelessly to consolidate operations from 20 different rail companies and assemble a network to link small towns and big cities from coast to coast. The plan worked. But they didn't stop there. They got busy renewing our fleet, investing in upgraded track, refurbishing stations, expanding service with state partners, and bringing high-speed rail to America. Their forward-looking dedication and constant drive for improvement paid off. With renewed public interest in rail travel, steadily growing ridership, and a rich 50-year legacy of unbelievable journeys. Now, a new generation looks ahead to the next 50 years. They're unveiling state-of-the-art facilities, crafting innovative initiatives, and rolling out a cutting-edge fleet of high-speed train sets and efficient locomotives to ensure rail's place in the future as a cornerstone of clean transportation. They're exploring access to new communities so no one's left behind, and implementing enhanced safety standards for peace of mind during today's travel and whatever lies ahead. At the heart of Amtrak, there's always been great people. people who believe in the power of staying connected to faraway places, to our history, to what's next, and to each other. That's why the future rides with us.
There you go. Thank you very much, Amtrak. Let's see. Okay, so that was the East Coast via rail. And now we're going to go over to our second trip, which is slightly different, or completely different, to be honest. This is taking the American Mother Road, as it's called, Route 66. Used to be the road where everyone would go on their vacations back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And we're now going to go and follow that route. And it'll bring back many memories of some of the old US movies and TV programs, which you may have grown up on. But this is our Route 66. We're going to be going from one end of the country to the other, starting off in Chicago, which is the start of Route 66, and then ending all the way in California at the end of Santa Monica Pier. Now, the thing about Route 66, it's the journey, it's what you see in between the main cities. I'm going to go through some of these cities with you now, and then at the end of that, show you some of the eccentric things you'll be seeing. Route 66 itself, actually only parts of it still exist, and we'll be traveling on some of those. But we'll be following the original route, and all over there are remnants of Route 66, and a lot of strange and wonderful things you will see along the way. So it really is about the journey on the coach from all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica, California. We start in the windy city of Chicago. And actually, this is a batch of your fellow compatriots here who traveled with us back in, I think it was 2019. As you can see, the beautiful skyline there of Chicago. And each one of these cities, we're going to go and obviously do a nice tour with the local guide. And we're also going to go and visit all of the attractions of each of those cities with Route 66 as our background. So a nice little another picture there of Chicago. Of course, it's called the Windy City, not because of the weather, believe it or not. It's actually called the Windy City because of its politicians. And I'll leave that with you. Chicago, and this is our transportation. Well, we have upgraded it a little bit, but it was funny, back in that 2019 trip, this particular vehicle was right in front of our coach, outside the tea rooms, where there's the big sign saying start of Route 66. And we followed these people pretty much from, as I said, all the way to Santa Monica, and getting quite friendly with them, really. In fact, they wanted to get into the air conditioning on the coach after theirs broke down. So, you know, as I said, you'll see lots of strange and wonderful things along the way. And one of those wonderful things is the Dixie Truckers Home in McLean, which is just outside of Chicago. You think again of America with its huge trucking industry, and they have this truckers home where you've got 5-star restaurants and shopping and even a hotel there. So it's not like the Little Chef or anything along those lines. Things have changed. First major stop along the way is St. Louis, or St. Louis. And that, of course, is famous here for the Arch. And we will be taking, for those who wish, we'll be taking the elevator all the way to the top of that, offering fantastic views, and having a tour there of St. Louis, which is really the gateway, of course, Lewis and Clark, the gateway out into the west. Next stop is in the music capital of the states, which is Branson, Missouri. Very famous for all of its different shows which are going on. So it's really quite a large music mecca. and we'll be visiting the Music Hall of Fame there. Carrying on, we are going a bit into cowboy world there with the Will Rogers Memorial Museum. And again, remember, these are stops along the way, but there's a lot of fun stuff that you'll see a bit later on as well. We go into Oklahoma, known very well there for its longhorned cattle. And as you are going from one end of the country to the other, you'll see the topography and the geology of all the different states, how it changes. We're coming out into the Midwest here with its plains and its rocky hills. And there we will be visiting our National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, because you are very much in cowboy land at the moment. Along the way there in Oklahoma, Route 66 Museum, which is really, it's just a recreated 1950s style diner with all of the memorabilia. You can see the Corvette car there, and it'll give you a real feel of how the Mother Road used to be. We're going to stop at strange places, the Cadillac Ranch. This chap decided it would be a good idea just to go and get a whole batch of Cadillac cars and plant them in the ground. Why not? As you can see on the ground here, there are a lot of the little paint spray, and you'll all get one of those, and so you can go and legally write your name or write a message or whatever you would like on any of these cars. This is actually a group which we had go out last year out to the Cadillac Ranch. And on a couple of those cars, there is, I know because I've seen it, the travel department has is written. So you can do graffiti legally. Albuquerque, New Mexico, a wonderful city here. It's surrounded by sandstone. So again, it's that topography which you'll go and see as you travel over the country. Albuquerque is very famous again for its Native American culture, and we will see that along the way. But the best way to do it is we're going to go and take the cable car here up to the top of Sandina Peak. And you can see there again, we're right in that big valley with the mountains on each side. So it really offers fantastic views. Carrying on to a rather larger hole in the ground, commonly known as the Grand Canyon South Rim. Obviously one of our largest national parks. This is Lookout Point here. And here we'll be taking the National Park Service coach, which will take you to all of the major viewing areas. So you can again see this incredible natural phenomena. It's the Grand Canyon South Rim. And then on to Las Vegas, Nevada, with its famous strip. And for those who like to gamble, obviously, Vegas is your place. But it's also very famous now, Vegas, for, of course, its entertainment. And our tour director can help you book any shows that you may wish to see. And also, it's constantly changing. So if you went to Vegas 2-3 years ago, and you go back again, it's changed. They keep on building things. They keep on knocking things down and building new things. There's a brand new, very upscale shopping center now, which has replaced one of the older hotels. So Vegas, always changing. Just outside of Vegas, about 45 minutes outside of Vegas, is the famous Hoover Dam. And we will go and visit the Hoover Dam, and you will take the elevator or the lift down to the power plant. And what you'll also see, which is really quite amazing, they're having a little bit of a drought out there right now. So you can see on this slide the white of the rocks where the water has actually obviously has gone down. But if you're again, the geology here is really quite amazing, and you'll see one of the large dam, which of course was constructed some time ago as part of the New Deal. And it's a nice little day trip out of Vegas to the Hoover Dam. And then on into California, where we will have a full tour of Hollywood, of course. Oops, and oh, yes, all right. In Hollywood, there we'll also go to Beverly Hills, and we'll see the Walk of Fame with a local guide who will go and show you everything of LA and in Hollywood. And so we end the trip in Santa Monica, and right at the end of Santa Monica Pier here, where is the sign which will say the end of Route 66. So you've gone from the start of Route 66 in Chicago all the way out into the Pacific Ocean there in Santa Monica. Now, I did mention you're going to see some lovely, strange, and wonderful things along the way, such as huge wigwams, strange alien-looking things, a lot of the old-fashioned gas stations and shops along the way. And in fact, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see Hackberry General Store. And there is a gentleman there who, every time we've gone, he says he's 98. We've been going here for 10 years, so obviously he knows something we don't. He's still 98. And he will just chat with you and tell you strange stories about people, famous people. He's got lots of pictures around who have visited his Hackberry General Store, and he really is quite eccentric. So you'll see eccentric things like big rocking chairs and a whale in the middle of nowhere, as well as meeting a lot of the locals. But if it wasn't eccentric, it wouldn't be Route 66. Now, one other thing I found out about Route 66 is that I believe that you've got a direct flight for the September trip now, which is wonderful, on Aer Lingus. So we hope to see you maybe in this September or next year to go and take a look at the old Mother Road. Staying on the West Coast, we're going to go to California. And again, this is one of the travel department groups from earlier in 2019, overlooking the famous Golden Bridge Gate. So we are going to start in San Francisco here. And we're going to go up into Sonoma wine country, and then over to Yosemite National Park. We're going to go and follow the coast down to Monterey and Hearst Castle, and then back into LA, and then fly out of Vegas. So it's a great trip to go and discover good old California. One of the things we'll be doing in California, or in San Francisco, should I say, we'll be visiting Sausalito, which is just north of the city. And we're going to be taking the Sausalito ferry, which will take us right past the famous Alcatraz prison and offers spectacular views of the city and of the Golden Gate and, of course, Alcatraz. You do have a free day in San Francisco, so if you wanted to go out and actually to Alcatraz, or you wanted to go and ride one of the trolleys which go up and down the hills, you may do so. And of course, our guide will be happy to assist arranging everything there for you. So that's the Sausalito ferry. Heading north, we go up into wine country to Sonoma, and we shall invite you to join us for a wine tasting at the Klein Winery. And you'll be able to, of course, purchase the wonderful California white wines there, and hide it in your suitcase as you bring it home. And then we head over to one of the state's first national parks, which is Yosemite, which is really just quite awe-inspiring. On the left there, you've got El Capitan, and you've got the big waterfalls and the rivers. And we'll be heading in over the ridge into the valley there at Yosemite. We'll be visiting some of the locals because on a coach, you're much higher up than in a normal vehicle with much bigger windows. So you do get to see the wildlife, and you do get to have some really good views. But Yosemite is famous for all of its wildlife. And of course, you don't have to drive, so you can actually look out the window and take a look at the wildlife. But here's one of the brown bears there of Yosemite. Then we're going to go and drive it's called the 17-mile drive, which is a road there, surprisingly enough, going 17 miles all the way along the coast of the Pacific Ocean. And you will see some really fantastic sights. This one here is the lone cypress tree there. And this is where the rich and famous live. You've got rock stars, you've got actors, you've got my mother-in-law. Well, no, she moved. Sorry, no, she's no longer there. But I wish. Yes, this is a great way to go and travel and to go and see the wonderful rocky shoreline of the 17-mile drive. Carrying on down the coast as we're heading towards LA. We go and stop at Hearst Castle. Of course, good old William Hearst was one of the extremely rich individuals of old money, and he decided to go, and why not, decided to go and build a huge castle right there overlooking the ocean. And now it's open to the public, and you'll have a tour of Hearst Castle. Really quite impressive. And then carry on straight down towards LA. We stop in Solvang. Now, of course, America is a country of many different origins. Many people have settled here. And of course, Solvang, as you can probably tell, is Dutch. So if you need new clogs or anything like that, this is where you can actually buy them. But it is part of America. We're not going back to Europe. And it's just one of those strange little Californian towns which you can find in the States. So we'll stop over there in Solvang. Back into LA here, and again we'll go to Hollywood and do a tour of LA, and we're also going to go and include a trip to the Dolby Theatre, where of course the Oscars are held. And believe it or not, from the outside, you know, it's actually a shopping mall, but you go into that and you're going to get to stand on the stage. There will be no slapping of each other, please. Yes, we'll do a tour of the Dolby Theatre, go and see where the Oscars, and walk the famed stars you can see there on the right. And you've also got the Chinese theater where all the premiere movies are premiered. And so we'll be touring again LA and the Hollywood area. Then we're going to leave and we're going to head back inland. We're heading towards Vegas now. We're going to stop at Calico, Ghost Town, which was a very prosperous town with a silver mine. You'll see these ghost towns throughout the West, and this one has been reopened now, and it really goes and shows you how life was at a silver mine, and how pretty much everyone just got up and left as soon as they couldn't find any more silver. But that's a nice stop on the way to Vegas in the ghost town. And then, of course, we're ending our tour back in Las Vegas. You're seeing the Luxor Hotel here where we'll be staying. And again, we'll be doing a tour of the Strip, and you'll have plenty of time to enjoy the lights and excitement of Vegas. Also, whilst you're in Vegas, and this is something which we really recommend, we do offer an optional excursion. It's a trip of a lifetime, really. You go and take a helicopter, and you go to the Grand Canyon. You actually go to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, where you'll descend to the bottom of the canyon and land. You'll be able to get off the helicopter there. They'll serve you some champagne and some little snacks, and they'll turn the aircraft off. And it is so silent. It is absolutely marvelous. There's, believe it or not, mainly there's no wind, and it's just absolutely dead quiet. Really quite impressive, but it's a trip of a lifetime. On the way there and on the way back, they run commentary. The pilot will be telling you about what you can see. There are a lot of silver and gold mines, for example, along the way. And then really cool at the last, just as you enter into Vegas, you actually fly right on top, right down the Strip. So it'll give you a different view of the Strip of Las Vegas. Of course, when you're in Las Vegas again, you've got to go out and see our Hoover Dam, like on the other trip. You can see they have this new bridge now, which is in front of the dam. And we'll actually take that. It will give you a different view of the dam, but we'll be going again down to the power center there and have a look at this monument to man's ingenuity, I suppose. So that is California. And now we're going to go and head down to my current part of the world, the Deep South. So that's the southeastern part of the United States. Completely different from where we've been before. The Deep South is just a marvelous, unique part of the States, and in fact, a part of the world. What you're seeing here on this picture is the Avenue of Oaks. These live oaks with the Spanish moss, as they're called, hanging down from the trees. And you've probably seen this in many films and TV shows as well. This is actually the entrance to Boone Hall Plantation, but really quite fascinating. Well, we'll talk a bit more about that later on. So first of all, again, a little map here to show you where we're going to be going. We're going to fly into New Orleans. Then we're going to head down to the Panhandle of Florida in Pensacola, up via Jekyll Island in Georgia, and then to the city of Savannah, into South Carolina and the city of Charleston, back inland to Atlanta, Georgia, and then we finish up with the music capitals of Memphis and Nashville. So let's take a look at some of those. Bourbon Street, New Orleans, says it all. Our hotel is actually located right there in the French district, so it's about a block and a half from Bourbon Street. We'll be doing a tour, of course, of New Orleans and all its different districts, and it's a beautiful city. The food is unbelievable. The cocktails are fairly good, yes, we'll say that. So we'll be touring New Orleans. Leaving New Orleans, we'll be heading along the coast, Alabama there, to Mobile, Alabama, where they've got one of the largest botanical gardens in the United States, which we'll be able to go and tour. And because the weather in the South is never cold, well, not really, but it's beautiful growing weather year round. So in the fall or else in the spring, you will all see wonderful different plants of the South, which of course, being what the climate is, are unique to our area. Then we're going to go the Panhandle to Pensacola, Florida, Pensacola Beach. We'll be staying at a resort hotel here for one night, right there on the beach. So bring along your swimming trunks, that will be for one night. We'll get there about early afternoon, so that way you'll have the afternoon there to go and build a sandcastle or have a puddle. On the way, just leaving Pensacola Beach here, we're going to go to the National Aviation Museum. So those people who like military aircraft, it's a great place to stop off before we head over to Jekyll Island. Now, Jekyll Island is an island, of course, off the coast of Georgia, which is, again, the playground for the rich and famous. They built small little bungalows such as this, what you see on this screen here, which has now been transformed into a hotel, Jekyll Island Club. But you're going to have 2 days here, so you're going to have time to go and discover what Jekyll Island has to offer. It's got marvelous beaches. It's got pristine coastal forests. And then really interestingly, there's a rehab center for the sea turtle. So you'll have some time there if you wish to go and visit our little friends here from the sea, where they rehabilitate those which have been injured and release them again into the wild. So that is on Jekyll Island. Then following up the coast into Georgia, one of my favorite cities, Savannah, Georgia. It is the historical city in the Southeast. Very famous for its food and for its culture and history. And we're going to go and hop on to one of our trolleys here. And as I mentioned, the weather, of course, can be rather hot in the deep south. But this trolley, you have air conditioning, so that's always a good thing. But we're going to go and do a tour of the historic district. Savannah is very famous for its squares, and the only way to get to these squares is by taking a trolley tour. So it'd be a wonderful little trip through the history of Savannah, Georgia. Some other images here on the left, you've got River Street, which is the big pedestrian area. You can even see there, I believe, there's even an Irish pub right there in case you feel the need. You can take the boat, the Georgia Queen, which goes out onto the Savannah River. And again, you'll have a couple of days here in Savannah. One other thing we're going to do in Savannah is go to Bonaventure Cemetery. Now, you may have seen the film by Clint Eastwood, The Garden of Good and Evil. This was where it was all filmed in Savannah. By the way, as well as Forrest Gump, I didn't mention that before, but you will go by the place where he had a box of chocolates, where he sat on his bench. And a lot of other different film locations will be pointed out to you when you're on the trolley. But this is Bonaventure Cemetery. And when you think of the South, you sometimes think it's a bit spooky, and Bonaventure will bring that definitely to light. You can see the live oaks there with the Spanish moss again. And we'll be taking one of our trolleys through here, and it's a walking as well as a trolley tour. And as this is all the low country, most of the graves and everything are above ground. They're mausoleums. And a lot of famous people have been buried in Bonaventure Cemetery. So it's a great afternoon trip included. Then we're going to head up to Charleston, South Carolina. This slide here looks familiar because it was the first one we saw. But as I mentioned, this is Boone Hall, Avenue of Oaks. The Charleston is very historical as well. It's historical for the Civil War, of course. Fort Sumter is just in the harbor, and that's where it all started. But also it's famous for its plantations. We think of cotton plantations. In fact, Boone Hall is actually a rice plantation. But through here, you've got this magnificent entrance. And at Boone Hall as well, they have kept the original slave cabins. And so you'll see the history of slavery all the way up to the Reconstruction period after the Civil War there, and the Emancipation. So it'll give you a little bit of that kind of darker history, but nevertheless, it is the history of the South, and very interesting to view. Also at Boone Hall, you'll see again something which you don't see in the river there in Dublin occasionally, I don't think anyway. Alligators, snakes, huge, great big spiders, spider webs about the size of a car. But don't worry, because you'll be seeing it from the safety of inside their little trolley, which takes you out into the old rice plantations. And you can just imagine the people who worked there, who had to go and dig these rice fields. And now, of course, it's all gone back to nature. And so you will see plenty of these little critters, really quite amazing. Up close and personal, but from the safety of your trolley. Into Charleston itself, again, a very historic city, and we'll be, again, doing a nice tour of the historic area. The house there in red was on the market a couple of years ago, and I believe that it was about $5.5 million. So do bring your checkbook. But Charleston has had a resurgence in the recent years. It really has, and you've got so many different restaurants and so many different eateries. And it's just a real, again, I use the word quintessential because that's the word. Like when you think of the Deep South, Charleston and Savannah, very similar, are absolutely fantastic cities to visit. They call Charleston the Holy City because you've got a lot of churches, and the church spires, nothing can be built higher than the church spire. You also don't want to do that because we're pretty much on the water table. And so anything larger wouldn't really stand up. So anyway, it's called the Holy City because of all of the church spires. You'll have the opportunity, should you wish there, to take the ferry out into the harbor, where you can visit Fort Sumter, where again was the start of the American Civil War. And you can go in there, and they have a marvelous museum. And of course, it shows you the history of the island, how it started, the Civil War, and you can still see cannonballs embedded in the walls because, of course, the siege lasted some time until the end of the American Civil War. But this is where it all started at Fort Sumter. Bidding farewell to the coast in South Carolina, we're going to go and head inland now to Atlanta, Georgia, which is the capital of the state of Atlanta, where we will be touring, and you'll be visiting the Martin Luther King National Historic Site. Again, American history, the Civil Rights Movement. This is where it all started. And they do a fantastic presentation here at the MLK National Park. You'll also be seeing many other, as well as the architecture of Atlanta, which with its skyscrapers, very impressive. But you've got the headquarters of Coca-Cola as well as CNN. So you'll be visiting those as well. Now we're going to be heading into Tennessee, where for the rail enthusiasts here, we'll be seeing one of the older Amtrak trains, well, much older, and so we'll be taking a ride here through the low hills of Chattanooga. You've probably heard of the song. I promise not to sing it. Chattanooga Choo Choo. Well, here is that choo choo. So we'll be taking a rail ride. Now, for the music enthusiasts, our first destination is Nashville, the Music City. And I think that slide there says it all. It is a fun party city, very famous for so many musicians. And we'll be discovering some of their haunts as we stay in Nashville. One of those, of course, the Country Music Hall of Fame. Even if you're not into country music, and I must admit I'm not, but they do a really good interactive job here of just showing you the importance of all of the musicians, the country musicians to the Deep South, because of course that really is the music of the South, is country music. So we'll visit the Hall of Fame. And then we'll go to its sister city, Memphis. Now, again, Memphis, Beale Street, very famous. You will not die of thirst or hunger. In fact, because the South, the food is so wonderful here, there may be a few more hours on the treadmill when you return home. The food is really quite fantastic. And here on Beale Street, as you can see, there are so many different options for you to enjoy. So one of those evenings, all yours on Beale Street. And Memphis, most famous, of course, for Graceland and Elvis Presley, where we'll visit. And if you haven't been there in the last 3 years or so, they've just opened up a brand new complex, which is really, it's got lots of different museums and interactive exhibits, as well as restaurants and shopping, which all highlight Elvis's life. And as part of the entrance to Graceland, and to see his aircraft and his car collection, you'll also have entrance to this new exhibit for the King. I mentioned music. Well, Stax Museum of American Soul Music. Soul music is another big industry in the South. And this is where, again, it's actually a working studio. So we'll have a special tour, and you'll see where all the greats of soul music really started their careers and recorded their albums. who knows who you will see there, because as I said, it is actually a working sound recording sessions there. So that kind of brings us pretty much to the end of these 4 trips. Couple of people from the office here. Say hello, guys.